Ukraine aims to bolster global food security through Danube ports. Ukraine has unveiled plans to leverage its Danube ports to dispatch humanitarian aid, primarily consisting of wheat and corn, to nations in Africa and Asia. This initiative was announced by Ukrainian Prime Minister Denys Shmyhal. In a government assembly conducted in Kiev this Friday, a resolution was endorsed to mobilize the nation's Danube ports for this humanitarian endeavor. The move emphasizes Ukraine's commitment to addressing global food security concerns and showcases the country's capability to be a significant player in global grain supply chains. During his address, Prime Minister Shmyhal emphasized the country's efforts to rejuvenate its agricultural exports and the paramount need to unblock the Black Sea ports, which have been impeded due to conflicts with Russia. We are dedicatedly collaborating with the United Nations and other global partners to resume our agricultural exports, the Prime Minister remarked. This new direction comes in the aftermath of Russia withdrawing from an agreement which ensured the unobstructed movement of ships laden with grain from Ukrainian ports in July. Subsequent to this, Russia has intensified its assaults on Ukrainian port structures. The Black Sea Initiative holds critical importance for the global food market, which has experienced turbulence since the onset of the war in February of the previous year. The repercussions of this initiative have been profound, especially for countries with lesser economic might that are considerably reliant on the grain imports from this region. Shedding light on Ukraine's agricultural yield, the Prime Minister shared that Ukraine had a bumper harvest this year, amassing 34 million tons of crops. Out of this, 22 million tons were wheat. To give context to these numbers, he mentioned the domestic consumption figures. The annual consumption within Ukraine stands at 6-7 million tons. Stated Shmyhal, this initiative serves as an embodiment of Ukraine's commitment to the global community, ensuring that even amidst geopolitical challenges, it stands as a beacon of support for nations in need. No peace with deception, Zelensky's stance on negotiations with Russia. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, in a recent interview with CNN's Fareed Zakaria, expressed his skepticism about negotiating peace with Russian President Vladimir Putin, drawing attention to the tragic fate of Russian mercenary leader Yevgeny Prigozhin, who died in a plane crash after purportedly being promised freedom to operate and later challenging Putin's war strategy. Zelensky emphasized the dangers of trusting Putin. While Ukraine's counteroffensive has achieved only limited success, Zelensky rebuffed the idea of peace talks with the Kremlin. When you want to have a compromise or a dialogue with somebody, you cannot do it with a liar, he asserted. Zelensky's stance found support in the historical actions of Russia, referencing Moscow's previous involvements and continued occupations in countries like Georgia and Moldova. He posed the rhetorical question, did you see any compromise from Putin on other issues with Georgia, with Moldova? While many nations, including the U.S., back Ukraine and continue to supply weapons, emphasizing that conditions for a just and durable peace are not yet realized, other global figures like Brazil's Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva believe the onus lies with Ukraine to terminate the conflict. PM Sunak to address Russian invasion's global impact at G20. ramifications of Russia's invasion of Ukraine will be a focal point for UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak at the impending G20 summit in New Delhi. Sunak, in a conversation with Indian news agency NI, expressed his intent to spotlight the severe global consequences of the conflict, particularly highlighting the spike in global food prices following Russia's withdrawal from the grain deal. This decision has led to increased suffering for millions worldwide, he emphasized. In the context of India's position on the Russia-Ukraine war, Sunak expressed respect for India's sovereignty in international matters. However, he highlighted the shared universal values of respect for territorial integrity and the uncharter, hoping India would align with these principles. Historically, India has consistently advocated for dialogue and diplomacy as a resolution path for the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Notably, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin have held numerous official communications since the inception of the war. In tandem, Modi has also engaged with Ukrainian President Zelensky multiple times, underscoring India's commitment to finding a diplomatic solution. The intricacies of the Russia-Ukraine war and the resultant global implications underscore the need for international unity and dialogue. As world leaders gather at platforms like the G20, the collective hope remains that sustainable solutions will emerge from collaborative discussions.